I had always thought my life was ordinary, a simple balance between work, my girlfriend AVA, and the occasional guilty pleasure of experimenting with feminine clothing in private. Nobody at the office knew, and I kept my cross-dressing life tucked away, hidden behind locked doors and careful routines. I thought I could control it, manage it, and keep it separate from the world that demanded a conventional version of me. But that illusion shattered the moment Mr. Lawson, my boss, introduced his new office game. My name is Alex, 26, and I worked as an administrative assistant at a corporate firm in the heart of the city. Days were predictable: answer calls, type reports, schedule meetings. But even in the monotony, I found a spark of secret joy when I slipped into a silky blouse or tried on one of AVA's skirts late at night. The feeling of delicate fabrics against my skin, the subtle shift in posture, the thrill of looking in the mirror and seeing a reflection that felt forbidden, these moments were mine alone. AVA didn't know about my cross-dressing, though she had noticed I sometimes lingered longer in front of the mirror or spent odd amounts of time choosing outfits for social outings. I never confessed, and she never pressed. Our relationship was warm, teasing, but built on boundaries. Or so I thought. That Monday morning, the office buzzed more than usual. Mr. Lawson had called an emergency meeting in the main conference room, his usual sharp expression tinged with excitement. I took my seat, trying to blend into the crowd, though a knot of curiosity tightened in my stomach. He leaned against the table, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like a predator assessing its prey. "I've decided we need to invigorate our office culture," he began. "To break the monotony, I'm introducing a little game. One that will test creativity, adaptability, and a willingness to explore your limits." The room murmured. Limits? Exploration? I felt a twinge of both excitement and dread. Something about the way he looked at me, a lingering glance that made my pulse quicken, set my senses on edge. Mr. Lawson continued, "The challenge is simple. For 1 week, I want you to step completely outside your comfort zones. There will be tasks, small surprises, and, let's say, incentives for those who embrace them fully." He paused, a smirk playing on his lips. "And Alex," he said, his gaze locking onto mine, "I think you might be uniquely suited for the first assignment." My heart skipped. I felt the room shrink around me. My mind raced.
Me?
"What do you mean?" I asked cautiously, trying to mask the sudden anxiety curling in my stomach. "Details will follow," he said smoothly, almost teasingly. "But it will require you to embody a different persona. One that aligns with feminine traits." The room erupted in whispers. Did he mean what I thought he meant? My private obsession, my hidden indulgence, suddenly felt alarmingly exposed. My hands sweated, and I shifted in my chair, aware that every eye wasn't truly on me, yet the idea alone made my heart hammer against my ribs. I remembered AVA waiting for me that evening, unaware of the storm brewing in my office life. I wondered if she'd ever find out. Could I navigate this challenge without revealing my secret, or would it drag my hidden desires into daylight, leaving me vulnerable? By the time the workday ended, I felt a strange mixture of apprehension and thrill. At home, I paced the small living room, glancing at my wardrobe. Could I? Should I? The thought of dressing up in front of anyone, even in the safety of my own apartment, made my pulse race. AVA walked in, carrying groceries, her smile warm, unaware of the turmoil raging inside me. "Hey, you look tense," she said, noticing my fidgeting. I forced a grin. "Just a long day," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Dinner passed in awkward silence. I couldn't tell her about Mr. Lawson's game. Not yet. I couldn't risk it. And yet, a part of me yearned to see if I could handle it, to embrace the feminine persona I had only explored in secret. The thrill of the forbidden mingled with the fear of exposure, a cocktail I had never felt so strongly. After AVA left to meet her friends, I stood in front of my mirror. The evening light painted shadows across the room. I ran my hands over the fabrics I had prepared in secret, a soft blouse, a tailored skirt, sheer stockings, and even a pair of modest heels. Each piece seemed to call to me, a siren song that promised excitement, vulnerability, and a glimpse into a world I had only dared to dream about. I took a deep breath, the reflection staring back at me. Could I do this? Could I face the challenge, embrace the feminine side that had always been mine in private, and survive the scrutiny of Mr. Lawson's game? The answer hovered just out of reach, teasing and terrifying. Tomorrow would begin a journey that could unravel my carefully controlled life. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as I whispered to the empty room, "I guess we'll find out." Little did I know the game was only starting, and once I stepped onto that path, there would be no turning back. The next morning, I arrived at the office with a knot in my stomach that refused to loosen. Mr. Lawson's grin as I walked past his office door didn't help. "Alex," he called, voice smooth and teasing. "Come in. Time to start your first task." Inside, the office felt different somehow, more charged, more scrutinizing. He handed me a folder, and I opened it to find a detailed instruction sheet. The task was precise. I was to present myself fully in a feminine persona for a client meeting with appropriate attire, makeup, and posture. A thrill ran through me. My secret life suddenly had a purpose outside my apartment walls. But so did fear. What if I wasn't convincing? What if someone recognized me? What if AVA found out? I spent the morning pacing at my desk, trying to memorize every step, every nuance described in the folder. Then came the first challenge, choosing the outfit. Mr. Lawson had left a discreet package on my desk. My pulse quickened as I opened it. Inside were soft blouses, a tailored skirt, sheer stockings, a pair of modest heels, and a wig. Everything I had secretly dreamed of wearing. I retreated to the bathroom, closing the door carefully. The air felt charged, electric. My hands trembled as I touched the fabrics, the silk cool and inviting. I slipped into the blouse, then the skirt, feeling a strange, intoxicating shift in my posture. The stockings hugged my legs, the heels elevated me, forcing a delicate balance. Next came the wig. Adjusting it carefully, I stared into the mirror. The reflection was both thrilling and terrifying. Alex looked back, but transformed, softer, more vulnerable, more feminine. My pulse raced, my stomach fluttered. The thrill of secret indulgence was now amplified by the stakes. Makeup was next. I applied foundation, blush, mascara, and lipstick with meticulous care. Every brushstroke heightened the sensation of inhabiting a new persona. I felt exposed and empowered at the same time, every inch of me screaming awareness. Once finished, I practiced walking, speaking, and even laughing softly in front of the mirror. The mirror reflected not just a different appearance, but a different energy, a persona that could charm, seduce, and disarm. I realized I was holding my breath, caught in the tension between exhilaration and fear. The hours at work were a trial. I navigated the office with careful glances, making sure no one noticed the subtle changes in my posture or demeanor. Every step in heels was a test, every tilt of the head a careful calculation. Mr. Lawson observed from a distance, a smirk tugging at the corners of his lips. Then came the client call. My voice, softened, refined, flowed through the phone. I felt a surge of pride at my convincing performance. But as soon as the call ended, reality crashed back in. The danger was real. If anyone discovered my secret, it could ruin everything. My career, my relationship, my carefully contained identity. By lunchtime, my hands were sore from the meticulous adjustments of clothing and makeup, my feet aching in heels, but my mind was alight with a new kind of energy. The thrill of living on the edge, even temporarily, was addictive. I felt more alive, more daring than I had in years. Back at my apartment that evening, I rehearsed in front of the mirror again, practicing expressions and speech patterns, adjusting the wig and makeup. The reflection was mesmerizing. The lines between Alex and this feminine persona blurred with every glance. But anxiety lingered. AVA's return was unpredictable, and the thought of her discovering me like this, half in playful indulgence, half in professional obligation, made my stomach twist. Could I maintain the secret while embracing this transformation? Days passed in a blur of rehearsals, tasks, and secret transformations. Each day, Mr. Lawson introduced new challenges, subtle gestures, voice modulation, posture corrections. Each moment tested my control, my secrecy, and my courage. By midweek, I began to notice subtle changes within myself. My confidence grew. My movements became more fluid, my thoughts tinged with an awareness of femininity that extended beyond clothing. The line between performance and identity blurred. I felt exhilarated, vulnerable, and alarmingly exposed all at once. Then, one afternoon, a colleague lingered near my desk, commenting on a change in my demeanor. Panic surged. I forced a smile, adjusted my posture, and managed a casual laugh, but the brush with discovery left my heart racing. The stakes were real, the tension unbearable. Back at home, I allowed myself a private moment, collapsing in front of the mirror. I studied my reflection. Every detail, every curve, every carefully applied stroke of makeup. The persona I had crafted was no longer just a game. It was becoming part of me, in ways I hadn't anticipated. That night, I whispered to my reflection, "I don't know how long I can keep this up." But even as I spoke, a part of me relished the challenge, craving the thrill of stepping fully into this feminine persona. The danger, the secrecy, and the exhilaration intertwined, leaving me on a precipice I couldn't yet escape. And just as I thought I might be getting control, a new instruction arrived from Mr. Lawson. "Tomorrow, you'll meet the CEO. Fully embrace your persona. No mistakes." My heart froze. The stakes had never been higher. My secret, my indulgence, and my very identity were now on the line. And as I looked into the mirror, adjusting my wig one last time before sleep, I realized the game had only just begun, and I wasn't sure I could survive it unscathed. The morning of the CEO meeting arrived, and my nerves were shredded. My hands trembled as I opened the wardrobe, selecting the outfit Mr. Lawson had prescribed: a fitted blouse, a pencil skirt that hugged every curve, sheer stockings, and heels that forced me into a delicate, precise gait. The wig, carefully styled, completed the transformation. I stared into the mirror, taking in the reflection of someone I barely recognized, someone undeniably feminine, polished, and fragile in all the right ways. My pulse raced. Every sense was heightened: the brush of fabric against my skin, the click of heels on the floor, the scent of perfume that wasn't mine, but somehow felt like me. As I stepped into the office, Mr. Lawson's eyes appraised me with a mix of satisfaction and amusement. "Remember, Alex," he said softly, "confidence is key. You're perfect, just play the part." The CEO was already waiting, a stern man with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through facades. My stomach twisted as I introduced myself, voice pitched softer, gestures delicate, posture impeccable. Every word, every smile, was a calculated performance, and every second felt like walking on a knife's edge. Then came the unexpected obstacle. My colleague, Jason, who had lingered suspiciously before, approached the room just as I was mid-presentation. My heart froze. He looked at me with curiosity, almost recognition flickering in his gaze. I forced a polite smile, trying to keep the conversation flowing, but my thoughts spun in panic. Did he notice? Will he blow my cover? The CEO asked a detailed question about a project I barely had time to review. My hands shook slightly as I pulled up documents, and I felt every eye on me. The room felt smaller, tighter, and I realized the full weight of the risk. One wrong move and my secret, my new persona, everything I had built could collapse. Then the chair behind me creaked. Mr. Lawson leaned in, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. "Stay in character, Alex. Trust yourself." The reassurance sparked a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. I nodded subtly, heart hammering. The meeting continued, each question a test of poise and presence. My voice, gestures, and even expressions had to be perfect. I could feel the sweat on my back, my palms sticky inside the gloves I'd been advised to wear. Every flicker of doubt was magnified, yet the thrill of successfully navigating the challenge was intoxicating. Midway through, Jason, still suspicious, made a subtle comment about a new vibe in the office. My throat tightened. I forced a laugh, hiding the quiver in my voice, praying he wouldn't probe further. Each interaction was a tightrope walk, and I realized just how fragile my dual life was. After what felt like hours, the meeting concluded. The CEO complimented my professionalism, not knowing the secret performance behind the poised exterior. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Mr. Lawson had a final twist. "You've done well, Alex. But next week, the board wants a presentation. Fully embrace the persona, and remember, any slip could be costly." Back in my apartment that night, I collapsed before the mirror, adjusting the wig one last time. The reflection was no longer just Alex playing a role. It was a hybrid identity, a delicate balance of fear, excitement, and revelation. My emotions were raw: exhilaration at success, terror at exposure, and a growing attachment to this new feminine self. Then came the symbolic moment. I noticed one heel had scuffed the floor during the meeting, a minor imperfection but a glaring reminder of vulnerability. I gently touched the spot, realizing that even small mistakes could unravel everything. The reflection stared back at me, half playful, half cautious, a living symbol of the double life I now led. My phone buzzed. A message from AVA. My stomach twisted. She could be back earlier than expected. I froze, unsure whether to answer or pretend to be occupied with something else. My secret life, my thrilling transformation, was now dangerously close to being discovered by someone I loved deeply. I whispered to myself, "I can't go back, not yet. But how long can I keep this up?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. The office was quiet now, the echoes of the day lingering in the polished floors and sleek furniture. I finally allowed myself to breathe, removing the heels and loosening the wig, but the reflection staring back at me in the mirror was no longer just Alex. It was a blend of who I used to be and the feminine persona I had been forced to embody. A text from AVA lit up my phone. My heart skipped a beat. "Back early, see you soon, face blowing a kiss." The playful emoji contrasted sharply with the storm of panic brewing inside me. Could she sense anything? Did my voice or my posture give away the secret I'd been guarding so carefully? I moved quickly, shoving the feminine clothes back into their hiding place, fumbling slightly with the wig. My fingers brushed against it, and I froze. What if a strand had fallen during the day? What if my carefully constructed image had a flaw that only AVA would notice? My pulse raced, each second stretching into an eternity. The door clicked open. Footsteps approached. My mind raced. Should I act casual, pretend I'm doing something mundane, or try to compose myself into a neutral state that would raise no suspicion? The sound of her voice in the hallway made me pause. "Hey, I'm home early." AVA's tone was light, but there was an edge of curiosity, a subtle question hanging beneath her words. My stomach nodded. I felt exposed, caught between two worlds, my masculine identity and the delicate, feminine one that I had just lived through. I glanced at the mirror, one last time, and saw her reflection behind mine for a brief moment. Did she notice the faint smudge of lipstick on my cup? The curl of the wig that had slipped slightly? My breath hitched as I realized that any second now, the precarious balance could tip. AVA's footsteps drew closer. I forced a smile, trying to sound normal, casual. "Hey, didn't expect you back so soon." My voice trembled just slightly, betraying the inner turmoil I was desperately trying to hide. She didn't respond immediately. There was a pause, a heartbeat that felt like an eternity. Then, softly, she asked, "Did something happen today? You seem different." My mind spun. Different? Did she mean the new confidence I felt? Or did she suspect something more? I opened my mouth to answer, hesitating, searching for words that could bridge the gap between the secret life I'd just lived and the one she knew. But before I could respond, a sharp knock echoed from the apartment door. My pulse spiked. Another visitor? Or someone who had been at the office? My secret was no longer just a delicate personal thrill. It was dangerously close to being revealed. AVA looked toward the door, curiosity now mixed with concern. Who could that be? She wondered aloud. I glanced at the mirror one last time. My reflection stared back, feminine, poised, but vulnerable. The duality of my life pressed down on me like a weight I could no longer ignore. I whispered to myself, I can't not now. Not when everything's on the line. And then the door handle began to turn. The screen fades to black.